up, guys? Brian Horatsky here from MarylandSportsBlog.com. First off, let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens dropping the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know all my readers are very happy about that. Well, the majority of them, which are Baltimore Ravens fans. Yeah, I have to admit I was kind of going crazy. We don't get treated like we don't get to see games like that often, where we just go out and dominate our bitter rivals. I mean, we've done it against Cincinnati and the Cleveland Browns, but I wouldn't really consider them huge rivals because, I mean, they're always in the cellar anyway. Yeah. Analysis from that game. Well, the Ravens just came out and put the pedal to the metal. I thought Joe Flacco looked absolutely phenomenal. His QB rating in the first half said it was about 125, I think, which anybody who keeps up and looks at QB ratings knows that that's pretty much A++. Means you just had a great game. His passes were precision point. The pass to Anquan Bolden, perfectly placed. He had a couple other passes that were just dimes. 10 out of 10 Peyton Manning-like passes that really couldn't have been placed any better. A couple of them to Anquan Bolden throughout the night. To Ed Dixon were just right on the money. And a couple of those were actually taken back because of holding calls, passing Ed Dixon and a pass to Anquan Bolden that were just right on the dime. You could not have thrown them any better. Even some quick short passes, you just threw absolute rockets, which is which isn't completely surprising. I mean, I've seen Joe Flacco practice. He's a lot better than some of the games that he's played against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it's nice to see him finally get through the hump. Defensive-wise, the Baltimore Ravens, with the 7 turnovers, just dominated the Steelers' offensive line. Big Ben really didn't have much time to get the ball to his wide receivers, and the corners did a phenomenal job, even though Jimmy Smith was hurt on the opening kickoff with a ankle sprain or high ankle sprain, however they define it. They really did a great job. Kerry Williams, besides one touchdown pass, he was just phenomenal. Knocking the ball away, doing tight coverage. Even Dominic Foxworth came back and played solidly. And Chris Carr, even though he was banged up late during the game. Ayers Webb played well. Yeah, on the Steelers side, they look like they really needed to work on some things. I guess, like some analysts say, it looked like their defense was getting old. Troy Polamalu was beat by Ed Dixon in the end zone for his touchdown pass. If anybody watched it, Ed Dixon easily ran past Troy Polamalu. He might have had a bad angle or something, but it just looked like he got plain out beat by a tight end, which doesn't really look good for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and especially since he's looking for a new contract, and he'll probably get it based on at least reputation. I think he's still a good player, but if he's out there getting beat by a tight end, well, granted that Ed Dixon does have wide receiver speed. He ran a 4.59 in college at the NFL Combine, so there might be an excuse there for him getting beat by a tight end. But usually Troy Polamalu is the one getting beat. They just didn't really have that good of a game defensively or offensively, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their running backs were a non-factor because they were down early and they were trying to pass the ball. So the Ravens really put them got them out of their identity a little bit. Um, yeah. Again, defensively, their corners did a pretty good job against the Ravens, except for against Anquan Bolden. The only wide receiver to catch a pass was Anquan Bolden. Lee Evans was targeted a few times, and one play probably should have been pass interference when the the defender kind of tackled Lee Evans before the pass got to him. But besides that, the other receivers were a non-factor. It was a little bit of a surprise that Tannen Dawes didn't get to play, but the Ravens were looking for more speed because that's a little bit better matchup against the Steelers, and it worked. The Lee Evans and Torrey Smith really got attention away from Anquan Bolden, so he was able to work. Players that impressed me, said Ed Dixon and Dennis Pitta, the two tight ends, the Gutman in their second year. I got to see these guys last year, and if any of you guys followed the blog last year or followed me on Twitter last year, I was very high on them. Well, basically the whole 2010 draft class, but they're really I think the two biggest upgrades we got in that draft class, with Ed Dixon in the third round, Dennis Pitta in the fourth. That really solidifies the tight end position so much that the Ravens were confident in letting go of Todd Heap. I liked Ed Dixon so much that I took him in my fantasy, in both of my fantasy leagues. I think he's fast enough. He's got the skills of a wide receiver. He needed to work on a little bit of his blocking because he was a wide receiver in college for the first 2 years. But then he switched to tight end. He was used last year mainly in blocking situation in the two tight end packages, and really did a great job improving. Dennis Pitta on the same side, he's a little bit older because he was on a Mormon mission before college. So he's very, very mature. But again, he ran a 4.6 and got at the as a 40-yard dash. So he's another guy who played very well in the opening game. He had 2 catches. Ed Dixon had 5, which led the team. Yeah, those two guys really impressed. Being it was the first 2 games. They're kind of called the dual starter tight ends. The Ravens don't really call one a starter over the other, which I think is really good for both of them. Another guy that impressed me, but on the defensive side of the ball, was Pernell McPhee, who played most of the game, which was kind of a surprise to me, being that he is a fifth round draft pick rookie, playing for the Baltimore Ravens defense. He saw a lot of playing time. He had a fumble recovery. He had a pass defense for a defensive end. That's pretty impressive, being that he's a rookie. I thought he played very well. He's a guy that can constantly eat up 2 offensive linemen because of his heavy hands, and it's a major improvement for the Ravens. Terrence Cody, I thought he got off to a slow start, but he played well. I think he was a big reason that Haloti Ngata had such a huge game, and Terrell Suggs, he's always dominant against the Steelers. They just really don't have an offensive lineman that can really match up against his speed and strength. Ed Reed, what else can you say about him? 2 interceptions. He's easily one of the top 5 all-time safeties in NFL history. He's gone on quite a stretch of interceptions since his return from the physically unable to perform last year, and he just continues to be at the right place at the right time. At this point in the career, he's still fast, but I'm always concerned about his health with his neck issues and hip and everything. But he's so smart. He knows how to bait the quarterbacks. He baited Big Ben into throwing the first pick Um, and I thought just another smart game by him. Um, I already mentioned Kerry Williams. He just great start, except for the one touchdown that he allowed. But really, on that touchdown, Big Ben bought a lot of time, and it's really hard to cover a receiver for that much time. And I think it was Sanders got away from him. Emmanuel Sanders got away from him, and that can happen on long plays like that. Um, yeah. Again, Joe Flacco really impressed me. I didn't think he was gonna have that great of a game. I was nervous about the game. If anybody watched the video blog last week, um, especially about the offensive line, but they did a great job buying Joe Flacco time, and Joe Flacco went through his progressions perfectly. It was look to the other field, check. The guys were covered. All right, I'm gonna dump it off to Ed Dixon or Ray Rice, and let them have a big game. Um, the offensive line was impressive, being that they didn't really have any time to mold together. They didn't play a preseason game. The only player that got to play in his right spot during the preseason was Marshall Yanda in the first game, but then he had the back spasm issues and sat off for most of the rest of the preseason. And Ben Grubbs, who is a great player in his own right. But Brian McKinney, Matt Burke, they're all veterans, but they didn't get to play in the preseason, and people were really worried about them. But Brian McKinney was absolutely dominant at times. He got a holding call, which I really don't think should have been a holding call on the type of block. We saw the Patriots do the same type of block in the Monday Night Football game, basically, but on the right side of things, and it wasn't called a holding call. So if you compare the two, they were very similar. Basically, he just patted James Harrison to the ground, and yeah, I really don't see how it was holding, which took out a big game for the Ravens. Yeah, Michael Orr was absolutely dominant on the right side. They did a great job in pass protection. They did a great run blocking, which is probably the biggest improvement that we're going to see with Brian McKinney being his size. He took on 2 or 3 blockers on a couple of plays who just knocked the guys off the ball. And Fonte Leach, another guy that had a really great game blocking. Not so much doing other things. Catching the ball he wasn't that great at. But that's to be expected. When we got him, he was a one-dimensional guy. He's not going to be like Le'Ron McClain and run the ball or catch the ball. He's gonna put a hurt on him. Yeah, I'm gonna do another video blog later this week. I'm gonna break it up into 2 video blogs per week from now on. Next time, I'm gonna talk about the predictions for games in the upcoming week. I'll admit I didn't do that well predicting this week's action, but it's week 1. You're still trying to figure your teams out and exactly where they stand. Right now, it looks like Baltimore's going to stand pretty high. ESPN has them ranked number 4 in their power rankings. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed watching. Have a great day. Let's go Ravens, and hope we can go out and get the Tennessee Titans next week, which I think will be a pretty easy game for them. See you guys.